reference.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Esme. I am recording this now.
Great.
Lynetta decided to as well. What I usually do if I remember to hit the record button, which I think I am doing now, the next day or as soon as it completes its processing on the cloud, then I post a link to it in the classroom so anybody can go in and watch it again if they want, or if they're not able to make the meeting. Okay, so you have referenced Barrow, Brannon, Kandar, but I'm not seeing a citation that corresponds with that reference. Oh, is that what that one is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is MLA, and what we use is APA.
Okay.
So instead of providing a number, what you will do is provide the citation, APA formatted. So that'd be Barrow
2022.
2022. And it's et al. Because there's more than two authors, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we have a citation that corresponds with the reference. What that's called in APA is parity, P-A-R-I-T-Y. You have to pair your citations with the reference or your reference with the citation. In other words, for every citation you have in your discussion, there has to be a corresponding reference. And for every reference that you provide, there has to be a corresponding citation. That is called parity. Okay. And if anybody has any questions, jump right in. This is a chat. This is nothing formal. It is just an opportunity for all of us to get together and have discussions, ask questions, things like that. So, Lynetta, is this just one reference or are there three?
I can't remember. I think there's three.
Okay. So let's start with.
Or is it two? It might be two.
Okay, let's start with this one. We have a citation for Barrow, and so it's going to be Barrow, comma, J, period, space, M, period, comma. Then the second author, Brannon, G, D, comma, and then the last one. In references, we use the ampersand instead of the word and. And then you'll type the last name, Can R P, and make sure to put a space in between the initials of the authors. And then you'll put the publication date.
Dr. Hill?
Yes, ma'am.
In the APA, I understand parity, but in the APA, it is called in-text citation. That may cause some confusion if they're looking up the word parity in the index.
Well, an in-text citation, and thank you, Kim. An in-text citation is just a citation in the text. Parity is where you pair your citations with a reference.
I understand that, but that word is not used in the APA manual.
Okay, thank you for that correction.
I'm not a correction. I didn't know that either. I just started looking it up.
But that is something that is needed is parity. And I'm sure at the end of your journey, you might have used ReciteWorks or something like that.
I used SiteWorks, I used,
Yeah, and that's exactly what ReciteWorks does. It looks for that parity.
right.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the reference.
So
Um,
we're in the library and it's saying you can cite because you know you can go over and say cite. You don't copy the APA part. You redo it yourself like you just did.
yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Those, and Lynetta, thank you so much for bringing that up. The citation reference generators are good to keep a file of what you have found,
mhm.
but rarely is their formatting correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so take that in. I encourage you to create a file as you're doing your research of copy and pasting those citations. But whenever you transfer those over into your references, you must format them to APA standards. Sometimes they are formatted correctly. Most of the times they're not.
Yeah, because looking at the way you did it, it's a lot of mistakes when I
Yes,
be
ma'am.
just copying it and
It's
pasting.
just, Lynetta, it's just different.
Okay. Well, yes,
Okay.
obviously mistakes on my part that I'm not correcting.
Well, and that's why we're having these
Right.
conversations. Yeah, don't ever trust those citation reference generators, but they're great to use as a file system to keep track of what you have read.
Okay.
Okay. So for right now, for this reference, I'm in question. I don't know what the title of, was this an article? Was it a web page? What was this?
State Pearls, I guess let me see. Treasure Island,
Okay.
Collection,
Um,
bottom. I'm not sure because you said what this week too. We can go there.
let's check it out.
Bless you.
Yeah, that's it. So it is an article. Is it an article? Internet.
It was in the library, and it was I think it's a peer review.
Let's see what the site says.
Correct me if I'm wrong, doctor, but I think we don't use anymore a variable from, and we put the website. That's an old EPA standards.
State that again.
No, on the page I see it says a variable from. We
Available
do not
from.
use that on the new EPA 7, if I'm not mistaken.
He said it's saying available from, and then
The website.
website at the bottom of my reference.
We're back to the reference. Okay. Oh, yes, Asmi.
Yeah, that's wrong. I
You can
copied.
no longer use received or retrieved from or available from. APA 7th is different than APA 6th with that. In APA 6th, you used to have to put retrieved from with a date, and that is no longer needed and it's no longer expected in the references. You just provide the URL. Is that what you were saying, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so this is a book. So this is a chapter from a book. Gotcha. Okay. Sometimes it takes a little bit of searching to figure out what it is. But this is an it's a book available on the internet. This is a chapter from the book. It's not giving me the page numbers. So whenever, okay, let's try to keep this simple. So this is a book and it's called, it is in that book, and you need to state the author of the book because it looks to be an edited book. Well, you chose a tough one, Lynetta. That's fine. Search his book.
Could it be In-State Pearls? Stat Pearls,
Stat,
right?
Stat Pearls is, it appears to be the name of the book.
Right.
It's Stat Pearls Publishing, because they have, now that we opened up the contents, you can see there's different chapters. And I would assume that each chapter has a different author, which it does. So Stat Pearls is an edited book, which means that each chapter has different authors. So what we need to do is to find the page numbers of the book, of where the research, of where your information came from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this is, do you have any idea the name of the chapter?
I'm gonna look on my phone.
Research. Oh, spotted this book. All of this is in that book. Wow. Doesn't feel right, but I'm going to play with it. Research ethics. Still not giving us the page numbers.
Okay, Dr. Hill,
Yes.
when I find that's difficult, I go into Google and I type the name into Google, the book name.
Mm-hmm.
It usually, or Amazon, it will usually bring up the book and it'll allow you to look at the table of contents.
That's a good thought.
And I'm trying to find exactly in the APA manual what page that would be for an edited book and what's required.
It's you might want to look under book chapters.
I found it, but I lost it. It said page 66, but it's not page 66.
Okay, so to save time so that we can get to more questions, Lynetta, I'm going to pretend that we're just going to provide some arbitrary page numbers.
Okay.
And usually whenever you're doing a book chapter, you'll provide the author, the editor of the book.
Mhm.
And then the title of the book. in italics. And then I believe the page number. Edited book chapters and entries, page 326 in your eight. If you have not purchased an APA manual yet, please do. And I would strongly recommend getting the spiral bound because it is so much easier to deal with. So we're going to say it's on pages 28 through 35.
Where can you purchase the manual at?
I'm sorry.
Where can you purchase the manual at?
Amazon.
Okay.
Usually you can get it the next day, depending on if you're close to a warehouse.
Okay.
And I still use mine every day. There isn't a day goes by that I don't have to pull that out and use it for something. Is that NIH? NCBI. No, Stat Pearls is the publisher. And then you put the publisher's name, Stat Pearl Publishing. If I could spell. Okay. Another difference between APA 6th and APA 7th, with books previously, forgot the title of the chapter, Research Ethics. We used to have to put the publisher's city and state. And when we transferred to APA 7th, we no longer need to put the publisher's city and state. For example, here you have Treasure Island, Florida, which is the city and state of the publisher, but we no longer need to do that. All we have to do now is just put the publisher's name. Okay. So this this reference is from an edited book. It's from, let's just go ahead and put Stat Pearls. The author is Stat Pearls, which is also the publisher. And then we provide the name of the book, the page numbers of that chapter, then the publisher's name. That way, and if you sit back and think about it this way, you're learning to become a researcher, and you are finding that going out there and doing all this research, it's very time consuming. So as one researcher to another, and this is what APA has, why they have set the standards that they have, they want to make it as easy as possible for one researcher to be able to follow up on another researcher's work. So we all use the same format, which is APA. And that way, whenever I go to a reference, because I want to learn more about that topic, I will know immediately by looking at how that reference is formatted, whether it's a book chapter, a journal article, if it's non-peer reviewed, a website, a blog posting, things like that. But just the way that that reference is formatted, the reader will know immediately what type of literature that came from. So that's why it's real important to learn this APA formatting right off the bat. Get this down now. I've worked with students throughout all of my years at UOP that whenever they get at the end of their dissertation, they're having to spend 2 and 3 weeks formatting their references correctly. I don't want you all to find yourself in that situation. So learn this APA. And what you may want to start, the reason why we start you out in the access courses, which is LDR 711, Res 709, and Doc 714, why we encourage you to use peer-reviewed journal articles is that learn how to format a journal article in APA. You'll also be looking at books. Learn how to format a book in APA. There's only 2 right now that you'll probably be working with. Learn those 2 because those are the 2 basic ones you'll be using throughout the entire process. Anything else is why we have the manual. Again, I use my manual daily because there's always situations come up that it's like, that just doesn't look right. Or gosh, I've not had to reference a white paper or gray literature in years. So I need to go and remind myself of how to do that formatting. So just get used to the fact that your APA manual will be your dissertation Bible, your researcher Bible. All researchers learn how to format to APA standards. Social science researchers. If you're a researcher in English or theology, there's different formattings, but you all need to focus on APA.
Dr. Hill.
Yes, sir.
Okay, dear, just recap what you just said about how to write this kind of citation. Okay, you put the name of the author first, and then between 2 brackets, the year, correct?
Correct.
Okay, secondly, do you put between 2 parentheses the name of the book or not?
The name of the book is in parentheses.
Beautiful. And then
I'm sorry, not parentheses, in italics.
Yes, in italics. Oh, the name of the book in italics. Oh, okay.
I think one thing to remember, Asmi, is you'll not use any quotation marks in references. There may be a very few exceptions, but that's nothing that you'll come across at the beginning of the process.
Okay, so you put the name of the book after the name of the author, and
yes.
Let me change it. I'm going to change it. Okay, and then you put the page number between 2 brackets, PP dot the page number with 2 dots.
Asmi, the only time you put page numbers is whenever you're referencing a chapter from a edited book. For example, your textbook, and I'm sure I responded in my feedback to most everybody. I'm going to use the Nordhaus book as an example. The Nordhaus book is one that you were introduced to in LDR. And it is one that you'll see continually. It's a textbook used throughout a lot of the courses. Nordhaus is the author of the entire book. So he is the author that's going to be listed. Nordhaus, comma, space. His first initial is P. His second initial is G. Believe this 2022 publication date. Then the title of the book. The title of the book is in italics.
Right.
But not in all caps. Leadership. theory. Now notice how I capitalized the first word after the colon. So
Right.
if a book title has a colon, that first word is capitalized. Everything else is in sentence case. And then SAGE publication. SAGE is an acronym, so you want it in all caps. And it's an acronym for, I believe it's Sarah. It's the children or the children or the founders of SAGE Publications, but they just created an acronym. So that acronym is in all caps. So this is how you would format a book. Sometimes you need to put in the edition. That'd be,
So
this
you
is
said
the
sometimes, how do we know
ninth
when to
edition.
do it and when not to do it?
You know, a lot of what I was taught years and years in the day, that the year of publication also tells you the edition.
Okay.
So, but I noticed that, especially moving from APH 6 to APA 7, they are adding the edition all the time. So I'm trying to get in the habit of doing that as well. Asmi, did that answer your question, sir?
Yes, ma'am, sure did.
Excellent.
And okay, after you write down the name of or the title of the page, and you put then the name of the author with the year, do you put the page number and the chapter number after that, or you don't?
You don't.
You don't. Got you.
Yeah. If the author of the book has written the entire book,
Mhm.
you don't put the chapter or the page numbers.
Do we need to put the title? I mean, the title. Well, that is the title, isn't it? International Journal Social Research Mythology.
You know, I've noticed that so many of you are we don't want to do that one. I'm going to drag this over here, make sure I don't show anything I'm not supposed to. I wanted, all of you all have been, for like the James and Slater text, I've noticed that you've been putting the chapter number, the chapter title, and the page numbers for those chapters. And that is incorrect formatting. So is that what's showing whenever you, is that what's showing in the classroom? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, okay.
Because,
One more question, dear, if you don't
yes.
mind.
Oh no, please ask all you want.
Okay. I'm looking at one of my papers, and I have I changed the formatting to meet what you just said. And I have the title of the book at the beginning, then they put down the name of the author on the year. Then in all, I put down the title of the page or the title of the article. That's okay, right?
So you're talking about a journal article?
Yes.
Okay. Before we jump to journal articles, I want to make sure everybody understands how to format a book. Okay. Hold that thought, Asmi. We'll be right back to it. Okay. So I am looking in the student activities folder, and it is showing the chapters, but that is not the proper formatting. Okay. So for example, the James and Slater book. Yeah. Okay, that's what y'all are doing. You're copying and pasting from James and Slater and even the Her and Anderson. One more book, Asmi, and then we'll get to the journal articles, honey.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. So this is what you all have been doing. You've been copying and pasting what is showing in the library, correct? For your reference. Let me show you. Okay, so James and Slater, they are the authors of this book. It is not an edited book. So that is going to be formatted just like Nordhaus is. James and Slater, 2014. The title of the book is Writing Your Doctoral Dissertation or Thesis Faster.
Also,
And
with
Sage Publications again is the publisher. And then the book title is placed in italics. You don't need to provide the chapter number because it's not an edited book. It's not a book where there's different authors for each chapter. Does that make sense?
It does. I think it's just difficult when we try to, if we're in the university library or we're using something from the university and we're using the cite button, that it could be possibly wrong. And I didn't know that all this
Oh,
time.
and Lynetta,
And
this is
I
a
don't know if
learning.
other people didn't know either, but
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's why I wanted to start having these Saturday morning chats and to start having these conversations so that these minor things can be cleared up. Yeah. And I understand that it's easier for y'all just to go in and copy and paste what is showing in the library. But I just wanted to bring to your attention the difference between a book with one author and an edited book that has, let's say, for example, Lynetta, throughout all of your experiences, you've decided you want to write a book and you reach out to me, you reach out to Dr. Kim, you reach out to Joycelyn, you reach out to Asmi, and we all write a chapter for this book that you are putting together. That is an edited book. You are the one putting it together, but all of us have different chapters in the book. Does that make sense? Where
yes.
James and Slater have written every chapter. That is a non-edited book. They are the authors of that book. So a non-edited book like James and Slater, Her and Anderson, you don't provide the chapter numbers and the page numbers. You just provide the title of the book. But the Stats Pearl that you brought up, that is an edited book. Each chapter is written by a different author. That is the case where you would provide the page numbers.
Yeah.
Dr. Hill,
Yes, ma'am.
back to the research ethics. Technically, it's not a book, it's a study guide. And it just gives the names of the authors. And it says it's a study guide from Stats Pearl Publishing, Treasure Island. It does not give a name of a book or anything like that.
Okay.
So that may add to confusion.
Yeah, this, like I said, Dr. Kim, this is a tough one. I mean, for her to choose this one is like, oh my gosh, what do we, I would have to do some more research. But from my understanding, the entire edited thing on the internet is called Stat Pearls.
That's the publishing company.
It's all, was it not also the
No,
title of,
the
what is the
title,
title of, what is the title of the publication?
there's no research ethics.
Research ethics was a section in that.
No, ma'am. The title is called research ethics.
Okay.
And it's by Burrow, Brannon, and Kadar. And it gives you the information. What I did was I looked it up because I was trying to find out what the name of
Sure.
the book was. And this is what I found.
Okay. Thank you. And what
But
I'd like to do to save time, Dr. Kim, is, this is like I've stated, this is very unique. Again, if I don't want to take up too much time this morning looking at this. And I would have to do some more research myself, but what I'm hearing you say is that this is a compilation of different books on Stat Pearl's website. Is that correct?
yes, what I'm doing is I'm going to log in on my computer and I can send you the link that I found.
I'd rather move on, hon, if you don't mind.
That way you can look at it later. You don't have to look at it now. Also, I have an appointment that I need to run to.
Okay.
I'm leaving out of country and I just got to get out of here.
Well, enjoy. And thank you again for joining us this morning. And you're
No
welcome
problem.
anytime. Love
All
to
right,
have you.
And you all have a great day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so we've covered a regular book and we're just going on the assumption that Stat Pearls is an edited book. Again, I would have to do some more research to really figure out what this is. But this is one formatting that you really want to get down at the very beginning, is how to format a book. And it's very simple. The author, publication year, the title of the book in italics, and then the publication, the publisher's name. Do you want to move to journal articles now?
Mhm.
Okay.
Dr. Hill,
Yes, ma'am.
just really quickly, how do we know? I mean, is there like a trigger for us as we move along, how we know edited versus non-edited books?
Yeah, there
Okay.
is. What you'll normally see, Stephanie, is in an edited book, there will be different authors for each chapter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the trigger.
So basically not flip through, but if it's an online something, kind of go through the table of contents. Is
Yes,
that where
ma'am.
they will tell us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Y'all are learning to do research, and it's more than just finding literature. It's researching on what kind of publication it is. How am I going to format this? Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Great question. Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to pull up an article. Let's see. Ah. Okay. So there is a problem with this. Okay, so first of all, this is a journal article. The title of the journal that the article is in italics. And what I had to do, I'm ADD. So what I had to do whenever I started learning APA formatting is the title of the actual, and back in the day, we had to go to libraries and find hardback books, and the journal articles were in a book. So whatever that book or that title of that journal is, it is in italics. So this is an article in Qualitative Report, Volume 18, Issue 42. And this is the title of the article that is in that journal. So the title of the journal is in italics along with the volume number. And the title of the article itself is written in sentence case. What does that mean, written in sentence case?
You have to have the first letter of every word that is more than 3 letters capitalized.
That is title case, Asmi. Thank you. Sentence case. If you think of a sentence, the first word is capitalized. None of the others are unless it's a proper noun. So using iPoems to hear the voices and understand the actions of EDD students conducting action research, I is going to be capitalized because it is I. Poems is not. Here is not. Voices is not. None of these are proper nouns. And so if you were writing a sentence, these would not be capitalized. That is sentence case.
When do you write a sentence in citation?
This is what we're working on right now, Asmi, is one of the references.
Right.
Titles of books, titles of journals are all written in sentence case.
Oh,
Yeah. Titles of books and titles of the journals that the articles are in are written in title case. Not titles of books, I'm sorry, are written in italics, but the book titles are not written in, book titles are written in sentence case. I'm sorry, I just confused you all, and my apologies. So this is the title of the article. It is written in sentence case. The same as with a book. Book titles are written in sentence case.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you brought that up because, boy, I sure don't want to confuse you all anymore. So this is a journal article. As a researcher, I can tell it is a journal article right away because this is in italics. The title of the journal and the volume number are in italics. That tells me immediately, oh, this is a peer-reviewed journal article. Because
and
if
it's okay to keep it in italics.
I'm sorry,
It's okay to keep it in italics when we put it in our reference.
a journal article.
Okay.
Yeah. So because this is in a journal, automatically I know that this is a peer-reviewed piece of literature because it went through a blind review process to be published. So it is peer-reviewed. So I know that this is a valid piece of literature to use in my research. All journal articles require a DOI number or a direct link to that article. And a direct link means that it's a URL that somebody in the general public can access without having to belong to a, without having login information. For example, you have access to UOP's library, but to be able to get into that library, you have to log in to the UOP system to get in that library. So if you find a journal article in our library, you can't just simply go up into the URL and copy and paste that URL, because there's going to be information in that URL, things like UOP Phoenix or login. Somebody in the general public is not going to have access to that library. So that's why whenever the internet really took off and they realized how many articles were going to be published on the internet, they came up with a system to organize and provide numeric values for every article that's placed on the internet. And that's what the DOI is. DOI stands for yep, Digital Organizing Index or something like that. There's some interesting history about the DOI number, and it is in the APA manual. Can't believe I can't remember that right now, but there you go. So there's two main types of formatting that you really need to learn right away. That is a journal article and a book.
Digital object identifier.
Oh, thank you, darling. Oh my goodness. Yes, digital object identifier. Okay. So just as a wrap up, if you have a reference, what must you have in your discussion?
Dates.
A citation to go with that reference.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant how to put it in there. My bad.
Oh, trick question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a citation that goes with the barrel.
Okay.
Okay.
So everything has to match up from here to there, but don't use the citation that's in the article or the book. You got to do it as you showed us how to do it.
The reference. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, any other questions about citations or references at this point? And also, just a heads up, not that I'm expecting perfection at this point, at the beginning of your journey, but one citation per paragraph is really not acceptable. Okay. Say, for example, and Lynetta, I'm just using this as an example. Don't take anything I'm getting ready to say personally. This has nothing. Okay. This is all hypothetical. So what I did, or let's say what this author did, they went out and read 3 or 4 different articles and maybe even got into a book and found some information to write this chapter. You're going to need to provide a citation from everything that you read. So if you read something out of a book, if you read something out of 2 different articles, you need to provide citations for everything that you read.
So wait, everything that I read, not wrote. So like that.
Correct. Because where did you get the ideas from for what you wrote?
I have an answer to that.
Ooh.
Okay.
The answer is sometimes some of the book of some of the things that we write about, I'm talking about me personally, that I write about, yes, I will put down where I get the information from. However, there are some instances that I went through this before during my career, during my experience. Can I add that without doing any citation or any of these things? Because, I mean, I've been in business for about almost 35 years.
Yeah.
And
Good.
a lot of things, especially when it comes to IT problems, IT issues, I went through it before. Can I add what I experienced in my life that is related to the subject without putting any citations or references, any of these things?
What an awesome question, Azmi.
Thank you.
No.
Oh,
Dang.
really?
Really? So we don't put our own experience in it?
When it comes to the DQs, we're asking you for your personal experiences. But when it comes to writing your dissertation,
Oh, okay. No, I'm talking
What-
about DQs.
yeah. And what we're wanting you to do at this point, Lynetta, is to get into the habit of substantiating everything you write. When the first day that I started my doctoral program, our professor told us, from this moment forward, you have no opinion.
I don't like him.
I didn't like him then either.
Oh,
But I can promise you, Azmi, that anything that you have experienced in your professional life that you want to convey to your reader, you're going to be able to find it in the literature.
Well, not what I went through, trust me.
Well,
I dealt with some managers, God only knows from where the hell did they come from. Excuse my language.
yeah.
I've never heard that word before in my life, Azmi. Sarcasm. Okay. Then it is your responsibility to find enough information in the literature to weave that idea or that thought into your discussions. Now,
Understood.
I want to emphasize again, when it comes to the DQs, the discussion questions every week, you are encouraged to share your professional experiences. But when it comes to writing your dissertation, you have to really work hard to avoid your personal opinions, your personal perspectives, your personal experiences. Everything must be substantiated with literature.
Understood. Well, we will do what it was us to do. That's no problem.
Okay. And now discussing substantiation, I'm still seeing, I haven't started reviewing week 3's work yet. For the DQs, for every discussion question, you have to post a minimum of 2 discussions. And both of those discussions must be substantiated with literature. So both postings for each DQ needs to contain citations and references. That's called substantiating your discussion.
How many in the first one? In the first post, 2 or 1?
For each discussion question,
Mm-hmm.
you have to post 2 substantiated discussions. If you notice at the very top of each discussion prompt, it states the expectations. Let me bring that up. I know in LDR, a lot of, I can't say a lot of, some instructors don't really pay it. Their expectations are not that high. But with each class that you all take in the progression of the doctoral program, the expectations are going to raise.
Yeah, because like with the posting to another peer, we didn't have to use peer reviews or
You
anything
do
else.
now. Post a total of 2 substantive responses over 2 separate days for full participation. I know, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But if you stop and think about it logically, you're learning to become a researcher. And if we don't push you to get out there and do research, you're not going to do it. I mean, it's human nature. And I'm not speaking directly to you, Lynetta. I'm speaking in general when I say you, okay?
Mhm.
You know, it's just something that you need to get used to doing. And the more you do it, the faster you'll get at it and the easier it will become. But we need to set these expectations now because you're going to start writing your dissertation in just a couple of months. You're going to begin your dissertation. It's going to take 2 or 3 years to get through it, but you're going to begin it. So what we're trying to do is provide you that foundation you need so that whenever you hit the ground, you can start running. You'll know how to do APA citations and APA reference formatting. You'll know that, oh, it's embedded in my brain now. I cannot state anything if I don't substantiate it with literature. I have to avoid my personal views, my perceptions, my perspectives, and I have to get rid of as much of my personal bias as I possibly can. And the only way you can do that is use the literature to substantiate what it is that you're discussing. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Hill, this is maybe deviating from the main subject, but I have a couple of questions about some of the notes that you have, like on what you are expecting. You always say to use the library, the Phoenix Real Library. My question is, when I go and put in the information that I need to look for, I found gazillion stuff.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff, do you be talking like, for example, I'm talking about an IT, about let's say for sake of argument, hardware. But the only ones I found is about diseases and how the diseases are related to new technology. That is not what I want. And that's really get me frustrated.
Oh, it is. And Asmi, I promise you, you will get better at choosing the keywords that you need to use to find what it is that you need to find. If you've not had an opportunity yet, these 2 videos right here, choosing sources for your paper and locating a peer-reviewed journal, and all this other stuff that the library provides you tutorials on and everything. Take advantage of this. Yes, you're going to spend a bit of time at the beginning of this doctoral journey learning how to do research, but it will save you so much time as you move forward. So take the time now, become familiar with what the library has to offer. These videos and all this other information give you tips and hints on what keywords to put in. Asmi, going back to your statement,
I gotta get the charger.
Whenever you find an article that is close to what you're needing, look at the keywords that they have used, because all researchers will provide you usually in the abstract, keywords that they used to find the information that they found. So I always look at the keywords that authors have used, and it helps narrow down my searches.
That's a
So
good idea.
it is frustrating at the beginning, Asmi. I totally understand that.
Okay, the second question, dear, is there are some websites that they have very nice and good articles, but the website ends up with .com or .org or whatever. Are you allowed to use these websites or not? No.
They're not peer reviewed.
Got you. Got you.
Now, when it comes to, if you want to define, say something specific to a company or an organization, it's okay to use their website to define their mission statement or, you know, their purpose statement, or not mission, not purpose, their mission or vision statement. It's okay to do that, but not to substantiate a scholarly discussion.
Got you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great questions.
So I got another question. So
Yeah.
with a peer review, do you always have to use something from the peer review in your discussion? Or can I just reference what I read and said and then say this is where I got it from? Or do you need to see something from that article?
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying, Lynette, and let me rephrase it and see if I understand you correctly.
Okay.
You're reading information from here and there and somewhere else, and you're coming up with a discussion based on what you've read, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You need to provide the authors the credit that they deserve for giving you the ideas that you have stated in your discussion. And those ideas need to come from peer-reviewed literature.
But do I need to like put like a statement that they said, like
No.
a sentence or two? That's what I mean. Do I have to? I don't
A
have to.
direct quote?
Right.
No, no direct quotes.
Okay. Because that's
No
what
direct.
confuses me. Like I have
Yeah.
to go through here and put that he said so and so, so and so. Then I have to say why. And
No, no,
oh,
no.
okay.
What you're doing as a critical doctoral student, critical thinking is the key word here. You are going out and you're reading, let's say I'm reading 4 different articles on one topic.
Mhm.
And I sit back and I think about everything I've read. And it's like, oh my gosh, it makes sense now. This and this and this. And I put it in my own words.
Right.
That's paraphrasing. But
Okay.
I have to give those authors credit for giving me the thoughts and ideas that I got to be able to state what I stated. Does that make sense?
Right. So I put it at the bottom. I don't have to put nothing in when I use my own words. Correct. I put it as a reference that I used it. I got my information from that.
But you have to, okay, say for example, I've read 3 different articles on a topic, and one article is providing me information on how students begin to critically think. And so I've decided to organize my discussion in 3 different layers. One about how students begin to critically think, how students start analyzing and evaluating information. And then my 3rd layer is going to be how students synthesize that information. So whenever I'm discussing the part about, I can't even remember what I first stated, going out and analyzing articles, I'm going to provide that author credit for giving me the ideas about how to analyze information. And
But
then,
how would I put that in there, though?
I'm sorry.
How would I put that in my discussion though? The
First of all,
number.
you need to organize your thoughts,
Uh-huh.
and usually thoughts are layered. And so layer number 1, you get your information from one author. You're going to paraphrase that layer, provide a citation for that author. Then as you progress your discussion and go into a different topic or a different part of that discussion,
Mhm.
you just want to make sure that this idea, this thought came from her and Anderson. I need to provide a citation there. This thought and idea that I've come up with came from James and Slater. I need to provide a citation there.
Okay. But it is okay to put a direct quote at some point though, right? Or
At
no?
the very end of your dissertation, there should not be any more than 10% of your references that have a direct quote. The only time you use a direct quote in scholarly writing is if changing the wording of that phrase or sentence would completely change the meaning. For example, what was it, Kant, that said, I think, therefore I am? That would go in direct quotes because there's no other way to say that. But I know in like bachelor's and master's work, you were encouraged to show validation by show us direct quotes from the author.
Right.
We're forcing you to think differently at the doctoral level. You are becoming a critical thinker where you're going to paraphrase information that you have read, no direct quotes.
Okay.
Okay. It's a challenge at the doctoral level, moving from one type of thinking to another type of thinking. But that it's critical thinking, Lynetta. We're pushing you all to become critical thinkers. Because if you stop and think about it logically, researchers come up with new ideas. And if they're not critical thinkers, they're not going to be able to come up with those new ideas. So that's our goal for you. We want each of you to become that critical thinker that whenever you do your research, you're going to sit back and think, oh my gosh, I never expected those kind of results. This is going to lead this topic into a totally different direction in the literature. Okay.
Okay.
And if you go through and you just direct quote, you're just regurgitating what somebody else has said. We want to see what you have to say.
Gotcha.
Okay. Good question.
Because I got to clarify because I keep doing it. And I'm like, you said it's not correct. So I'm like, okay, well, tell me what's correct. Now that we face to face, well, computer, I can get to understand better than just the texting back and forth.
Yeah. I prefer face-to-face myself, Lynetta, because I can get so much more information to you all so much quicker. And so, okay. I want to give you all back some of your Saturday morning. Are there any other questions or concerns that you have at this point in time that you would like to bring up?
I have a
Well-
question, just to clarify.
Okay.
When we talk about the substantial responses,
Yes.
the 2 substantial responses, are we talking the discussion question and 1 response to a classmate, or is it 2 responses to a classmate?
It is good question, Joycelyn. Thank you for asking. For the discussion questions, you're going to provide an initial response to where you are going to be answering that discussion prompt. And then you will also be providing a reply to one of your classmates or to myself. So there's 2 postings for each DQ. Each posting must be substantiated with literature. Did that answer your question?
Yes. The problem that I've been facing when I would do my discussion and I would go to respond or to reply to another student, a lot of the students had not yet responded.
Right.
So there was nothing for me to respond to. So I've been having trouble trying to find someone to reply to. And then I would find myself at the last minute trying to
Scrambling.
reply, and then
Yeah.
I don't have time to research what they are talking about, that
Gotcha.
I could go find literature to back up their claim, or my
Okay.
contradiction to their claim. So
Sure.
I was a little concerned when I started seeing the scores that I was receiving. I was like, not everybody's on target with getting their assignments done. So I was a little
Okay.
concerned.
Okay. Let me propose this. Let's say it's Saturday morning and you've got to get your initial post in for DQ2, but you want to get DQ1 wrapped up, correct? That's where we're at. It's Saturday morning. I want to move on to DQ2 and get rid of DQ1, but there's only 2 people that have posted anything. What I would suggest, Joycelyn, is read what they have posted. If it is echoing what you have already stated, you know, agree with them. You know, gosh, Asmi, thank you for your post. I see that you and I both are on the same page with blah, 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 citation, reference. Have you ever, and don't hesitate to ask your classmates a question about what they have posted. I see that we're all both on the same page, except you stated blah, 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 whereas James and Slater stated blah, 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 blah. What are your thoughts about blah, blah, blah? That way you can substantiate what you're stating by using the literature. And you're also encouraging your classmates to critically think a little bit deeper about that topic.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I need to get going, but I want to thank you so much for this beautiful meeting and cutting your weekend off for us. And God bless you. And hopefully, I will start writing things in English.
Asmi, you're doing fine. I realized that there was a language barrier there. So I'll work with you. I'll continue working with you on that.
Please.
And I do encourage you all to, I'll be here every Saturday morning until the class ends. So
Cool.
during the week, if you come up with questions or concerns, jot them down, save them for the Saturday morning chat, and we'll talk about them. What I would like to start discussing next Saturday is making that transition to scholarly writing. I'm providing a lot of feedback in your week 2 assignment. Yes. And I'm still trying to get balanced from the holiday. So really pay attention to that feedback I'm providing. I know that you'll come up with questions to ask. And so jot down those questions so you don't forget come Saturday morning. And then we'll cover those questions in our Saturday morning chat.
I like the idea of the Saturday morning. This way we can change what needs to be done in our work before you start, correcting the papers. So I really do thank you for taking the time with us. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, Asmi, it's at my absolute pleasure. And what I usually do on Saturday mornings as well is go over the assignment for that week. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that this morning because there were so many questions about APA formatting. I wanted to cover that. But very quickly, for the assignment this week, number 1, download that research template. Use it. That's what I want to see posted for your assignment. The only thing you need to fill out in that research outline template for this week's assignment is, number 1, what program of study are you in? Number 2, on the research outline template, provide me some background to your problem. Why is this a problem? And number 3, give me your problem statement. And use that handout that is in throughout the week, how to write a problem statement. The problem is resulting in, and then the citation. Where in the literature did you substantiate that that is a problem and it isn't just your personal opinion of what you think a problem is? Okay? Use that handout.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned the statement, the research statement. Where do you go? Anyway, in this baby, we need to fill up Like you have like a small template in there,
That's the research outline template.
right? We need to fill it out, or just write down what we need to do, or just fill it up inside the boxes.
Oh, that's the worksheet. You don't need to turn in the worksheet,
Okay,
Asmi.
cool.
Yeah, that worksheet is to help you understand the process of formulating a problem statement.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, just the research outline template. That's what I want to see submitted every week moving forward. Now, when I provide you feedback from week 3, when you submit week 4, I want to see those revisions done. That
Okay.
is part of following directions, and it is in the rubric. Has the feedback been incorporated from the previous week? Okay. So this is going to take, you're going to have to read the feedback, and you're going to have to incorporate that feedback each week to make sure at the end of this class, you can submit that final research plan, and I can see that you understand the process of how to put together a research plan. We'll cover more of that next week in our Saturday morning chat. Okay.
Thank you, Aideen, my good lady. Thank you.
Thank you, Asmi, for joining us. It's a
Have a
pleasure.
great day, folks.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Stephanie, you came off mute. Do you have a question?
No, I probably will always have ask questions, but I wanted to echo Asmin and thank you for this because I know I sent you a note and like I felt dumb. I was just like, wait a minute, like what's happening? And at one point, I'm pretty sure I felt like I was on an island by myself, and I know I'm not,
Right.
but I feel like I am. You know, does that make sense? And
Yes.
and having had this opportunity with you in this setting really is very helpful. I've made some notes and some things, and I'm sure as we go along, you're going to be like, okay, she got this one, but here we go on this one. So let's fix this one with this one. So I really appreciate this time that you've allotted us to get some further understanding on what we are doing well and what we're not doing well. So that when it's our turn to hold a student's hand or whatever we end up doing, we can remember, that we had this time and
Thank you, Stephanie. You've given me
what I mean?
goosebumps. Yeah, you've given me
And because,
goosebumps.
this is important to us and we wouldn't have gotten, this far in our academic world. But for me as a writer, writing academically isn't normal, I guess, is the right way to say that. Because I write stories, and so creative writing is just you just get out there and write. Academic writing isn't that at all, and so I appreciate this time.
Stephanie, interestingly enough, I just started assessing your week 2 assignment.
Oh dear.
Oh, and that was the first thing I stated was, this is written so well, but
yes, ma'am. Yes.
But you are a good writer, and because you are used to writing editorially, narratively, I've noticed with past students, 1 or 2 things. It's going to be very easy for you to make the transition to scholarly writing once that light bulb goes off in your head.
Yes, ma'am.
Or you're going to really struggle.
Okay.
But what I want to really, you are a good writer. Don't get me wrong. What I want you to think about in scholarly writing, your goal is not to set up a storyline or a plot. Your responsibility as a researcher is to provide the information, period.
Okay.
Remove all adjectives and adverbs.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's going to be a challenge for you. Remove, of course, any pronouns that are not needed.
Okay.
Watch out for vague pronouns. Do not start sentences with prepositional phrase.
Yeah, I'm real good at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, as a narrative writer, that's how you pull in your audience. It's like, well, without blah, 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 it's like,
Yes.
no, as a
Okay.
researcher, we're only interested in the information.
Okay.
We're too busy to follow a storyline. Just give me the information I need.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Got it. Thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
day.
You too.
And thank you for everything.
Lynetta, thank you. And thank you for inviting Dr. Kim. That was interesting.
No problem. She wanted to come because when I went in the group, because I'm like, I'm ready to quit. I can't get it. My APA is wrong, and they're very supportive in the group.
Yes.
And she was like, "Well, ask, can I come?" And one lady said, "You're not quitting." I'm like, "Yes, I." That's why I did my homework at. Because I know I got the little medical health thing, so I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna do it at all. I'm gonna do it though.
Good. Do you feel better now, Lynetta?
Yes, yes,
Is
yes,
it-
it's very clear now.
Oh, good. And again, don't hesitate to reach out, hon. That's why I'm here. I am
Okay.
here to support you and make sure that you are successful. And I do hope this Saturday morning chat has been helpful for you.
Let me ask about the homework from week 2. I know. I'm sorry. I'm going
Okay.
back. So it's you have to write. I found the article already. I had started, then I stopped again, then I started and stopped again. But that needs to be. I forget what is the homework. Let me look right quick.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up myself real quick.
Okay.
Because I've got about 5 different things going on in my head with 5 different classes right now. And
Oh, you have that many classes?
oh, no, I also write curriculum. So it's like,
Oh,
oh,
I really think that I've had you before.
well, Lynetta, your name really sounded familiar.
And that's what I'm like, because I remember the comments and stuff. I'm like, I've had you before. I just
So
can't remember what class.
Did who did you have in LDR?
He was somebody, I don't know.
He was somebody.
don't know. But I mean, I feel like because it's only my second class, I feel like have you taught bachelor's and associates too? No.
No,
Masters?
I've always been at the doctoral level.
Okay, no. Well, it was
But your-
somebody like you. What's your
But your
comment?
name is very familiar. Did you happen to start the program and drop and then come back
Mm-mm.
in? Okay.
Okay, let me see if I can find the homework.
Okay.
Because I have it pulled up
I
somewhere.
know you had to read an article analysis and research considerations. Okay, you were to have chosen an article on the topic that you are considering for your research, correct?
Right. And it's an article, yeah. And I got,
You remember me?
it says article analysis and research considerations. That's what you just said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what I got. And you got to,
I have.
do you have the,
I do have.
I don't know what happened. I can't pull you up.
Still exists.
My phone had went to, somebody rung my phone and it went really small.
Okay, let me do this, Lynetta. A while ago, when I was giving you an example,
Mhm.
I mentioned critical thinking and how it comprised of analysis, evaluation, and synthesis.
Mhm.
Okay, what we're doing here in the part 1 is you need to learn how to analyze. So find an article based on a peer-reviewed article based on the topic that you're considering for your dissertation,
Okay.
and then analyze it. And the way you analyze it is you're just simply going to discuss what it is.
Okay.
You don't
Yeah.
have to do any critical thinking. Just tell me about the article and tell me what the topic of the article is. If the article addresses a real world practical problem, how the results of the study might impact people's lives, work, blah, blah, blah. So in other words, you're just going to give me the information that you read from the article.
Okay, and I got that part. But where do I put the title at? So you will know the title of the article, or do I just use that as reference?
In your introductory paragraph,
Oh, okay.
and you don't even need to provide the title of the article, because what did you learn about the references today?
They all go in reference, and you just put the 2023 or whatever in the top. Well, okay, I got you.
Yeah, provide me a citation. For example, Zambo and Zambo 2024 studied blah, 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 blah. Well, in the references, you're going to be providing me with the title and the URL where to find it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha. I just didn't know because I was writing. Like I said, I started. I put the date and the title and everything. But I'm like, well, how am I going to tell her what the article is about? But I hadn't took this. We hadn't did this yet. So
Well, and let's go ahead and discuss this just a little bit more if you have another minute.
yeah, I do.
Okay, so whenever you read this article about this research study that whoever did,
Mhm.
in that they're going to be discussing their participants, who they surveyed, who they got data from, and be thinking about, well, what would it take to get access and permission for that situation? And if you're looking at, let's say you're considering, are you in education?
Yes.
Let's say
doing
that
it.
you, let's say that you're wanting to interview 20 teachers on their perspective on standardized testing. Okay. Think about, are any of those going to be in a protected class? Are any of them going to be children or minors under 18? No, that's not going to be a problem because they're all going to be educators.
Right.
Are any of them going to be prisoners? No, you're not going to need pregnant women. You might have some pregnant women. So that might be a access permission consideration that you need to make.
Okay.
Okay. So the information that you need to consider is provided here.
Okay.
And so what you need to do is, as a learning researcher, begin thinking about these things. If I'm thinking about interviewing 20 educators, am I going to need to get permission from each one of them to be able to interview? Am I going to need to get permission if I want to do the interviews in the school building? What kind of permissions am I going to need to be able to do those interviews in the school building? Do any of, or is there a possibility that any of the people that I'm going to be interviewing falls under a protected class? You know, be thinking about all of that stuff.
Okay.
Okay. That's what this is about.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Do you have to go?
Do what?
You have to go? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay. So you said do an introductory paragraph, but so you want me to, is this like a whole paper or because it just says write 350 words? So is that the whole paragraph? Start off with all of that? Well, yeah, identify article topic, explain how studying in the article. Okay, I got it. So it's just like one paragraph for like 500 words. Well, 350 to 525. Okay.
And then your discussion on the access and permission. Okay, so this paper that you're going to be submitting consists of two parts.
Mhm. Well,
Right. Let me get a drink real quick. I'm getting dry.
okay. I need one too, but I ain't going upstairs.
So looking at this assignment description, it's telling you, okay, there's two parts.
Mhm.
In your head, you should be automatically thinking, oh, I'm going to use two level headings. The first level one heading I'm going to use is going to be article analysis.
Right, got that.
The second level one heading I'm going to use is access and permission considerations.
Got it.
Okay, so that's how my paper is going to be organized.
Okay.
Now, my introductory paragraph, how am I going to write to let the reader know what it is that this discussion is about? I've got two parts. I've got to introduce that article that I found. So you want to give the reader some information. You want to give them the author's name and, provide a citation and a 1-2 sentence description about what their research study was about.
Okay.
And then, Okay, so that's part one of my paper. Part two of my paper is going to be my discussion on access permission considerations. That all has to do with research ethics. So in the introductory paragraph, you want to prepare the reader with, you know, a discussion on research ethics and considerations.
Okay. So it's three. No, it's still two, right?
Do what?
It's still two paragraphs.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I got you.
Well, three, including your introduction.
Yeah, introductory. That's three. Good. Okay.
And also, you're going to have a conclusion paragraph. Always provide a conclusion paragraph. And that's going to be your another level one heading. You're going to have article analysis, access, permission, and considerations, and then conclusions.
So I don't put introduction?
No, your introductory paragraph is never, you never provide a level heading for your introductory paragraph.
Okay.
Readers of scholarly writing know that that first paragraph is the introduction.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
my pleasure.
I'll
So
probably-
glad this has been helpful for you, Lynette.
Yeah, I'll probably be back next week. So, because you say you go over to work, I want to make sure I'm doing it correctly. I don't want to mess up, and I need to get a B because I don't want to retake this class.
Well, and I want you to be successful. So jot down questions you might get, have during the week
Okay.
and bring them up in the Saturday morning chat. That's what it's all about.
Okay. Thank you, and have a great day.
You too, hon. Thanks. Bye.